Hi, Annalisa Six here with the March 2023 horoscope for the sign of Cancer, Sun, and Rising. I have been a little off today, so I'm going to apologize in advance if I am crazy because I don't know. I'm crazy every month. It's just if you're going to watch this channel, just expect my craziness. But all right, March, we kick off in Pisces season. Where Pisces hits in the horoscope chart for the Cancer horoscope where Pisces season hits in the Cancer horoscope chart is the area that represents your ideas and belief systems around your spirituality. So it's the area that rules religion, higher education. It's the area that astrology rules. And so with the sun bringing vitality and highlighting this area of the Cancer chart, you might be exploring your spirituality throughout the month of March. You might feel more inclined to want to sign up for a class or learn something new. It's also the energy or the area of the chart that rules the energy around long distance travel. So if you've been kind of wanting to get out of town and go somewhere new, you could be feeling a lot of that energy over Pisces season. We start out the month with Mercury in Aquarius, but it enters Pisces on the 3rd. And so again, it's going to be influencing the area of the horoscope chart for Cancer that has to do with those themes, our belief systems, how we want to experience the world, how we want to learn about the world. And so again, if you're teaching a class or taking a class or both, that's really elevated during Pisces season, while Mercury is also in Pisces. So it's a good time to fill your brain with new things, new information, but things that are out of maybe the scope of what is linear. So Gemini and Virgo are more linear, and Pisces and Sagittarius are more expansive and philosophical and spiritual. And so this area where Mercury is in Pisces hitting this area, it's more like that. It's more spiritual and philosophical. So again, you might be changing your ideas or your beliefs on certain aspects of your life. Mercury is also not considered to be its strongest in Pisces. Pisces is the opposite of Virgo. Mercury rules Virgo traditionally in Gemini. So when Mercury is in Pisces, things kind of feel confusing. They feel foggy. It doesn't make sense to us. And so in this area, you might also be kind of struggling with certain ideas that are out of your wheelhouse. Like it might feel more confusing at times. I know for me, it's not even Mercury in Pisces yet, and making words has been hard for me lately, today especially. So I don't know if I'm just picking up on those last degrees of Aquarius or Pisces season in general is just making me feel that way. Where I have Pisces in my natal chart is the area of communication. So the fact that it's Pisces season and I'm having a hard time articulating words makes sense for me. All right. So a few other things that are happening before we talk about the last part of March and what Mercury is doing. The big thing that's going on right now astrologically for all of us is we've got a stellium in Aries. And a stellium is when we have 3 or more celestial bodies in a sign. And so we've got 5 all in Aries right now. So it's Venus, Jupiter, Vesta, Juno, and Chiron are all in Aries right now. And this is a great time for all of us to be reflecting on our relationship to ourselves. Aries rules the self. Aries rules leadership, ambition, drive. Mars is the ruler of Aries. And so we're all kind of in this bubble of this hot fire cardinal energy with our Piscean emotional spiritual energy, and reflecting kind of on how we express ourselves or assert ourselves. I know I put on red lipstick today, which I always think of fire signs with red lipstick, and I did a terrible job. So I'm really reflecting on doing my lipstick better for future videos. That's my Aries reflection today, at least. So where this is hitting in the Cancer chart is the area of the chart that has to do with career. This is such a great time to take more leadership and more of a front seat when it comes to the work that you're doing. So, some people might be thinking about promotions. Like when Jupiter and Venus are in Aries in the area of career, this is a great time to level up in your job. So to take on a leadership position, a raise. Venus oftentimes in this area indicates that there's some kind of raise or financial, kind of growth in that way. But that also comes with its challenges, right? It's kind of like more money, more problems, or more responsibility, more problems. And so having Chiron in the mix, which is the asteroid, the planetoid that represents wounds that need healing, if we have insecurities around being a leader or being more assertive or dominant, this is a theme for you that you might be working on healing. I think that one of the things that I've experienced in my life, I've worked for myself for a long time, but I'm one of those people where like I'm really good at working my way up a ladder, especially a corporate one. I start out at the bottom, usually in like the worst position, and then I end up telling everybody what to do, even people that are way more educated than me. I just have always been that way since I was young. Like I remember when I was 17, I worked at Forever 21, and legally you had to be 18 to be in a management position. And I was just so good at the job that they were basically training me early to take the management position because I was doing better than people that were older than me. And I remember being like, I'm 17. I don't want to be a manager of all these people that are older than me. And I ended up leaving that job, and then it just kept happening to me. Like I just kept going to other jobs, and I would turn down management positions because I was uncomfortable. I was like, I don't want to be a teen telling 20-something-year-olds what to do. Like it just felt really uncomfortable for me. And then eventually I got to an age where I was just like, yeah, I'm a boss. Like I'm a leader, I'm a boss, and I just need to step into that role. But when I was younger, it was really intimidating because I had a lot of maturity for my age and a lot of leadership skills, but I also was still learning and still young and still making a lot of mistakes. And so that was something that, I had to work through as I got older. But a lot of the reason why I think that happened for me was because I just did what I was told. If these were the rules and this is what was supposed to happen, I was like, okay, cool. The garbage needs to be taken out every night. I'm going to take the garbage out. This needs to go this way. And I was fast too, like so freaking fast. And so a lot of the reason why I think I moved up and got promoted wasn't necessarily because I was better or smarter than anybody, but I was consistent and actually did it. Like I wasn't lazy. I wasn't, I wasn't breaking the rules or trying to get in trouble very often. I mean, I had a couple jobs early on where I was doing that, but by the time that I was a little bit older and really needed the money to support myself, I took that stuff more seriously. And so I think like the reason why I'm sharing anecdotally is because I think that where this is kind of happening in the Cancer chart with Chiron in the mix is if we're not taught how to be an effective boss or an effective leader in the right way, we can end up in these positions and not necessarily have the right skill set. And a lot of the mistakes that I saw a lot of my colleagues make was as soon as that boss hat came on, they were bossy and they thought that they were above the other jobs, which often happens with people that have a lot of experience or get hired on in management versus working their way up. And what would happen a lot of times is nobody would respect the leadership because the leadership wasn't willing to get their hands dirty or wasn't willing to really model like this example of we're a team. And one of the things about, some of the cardinal energies like Capricorn, Libra, Cancer, Aries is there's this lack of teamwork that can sometimes happen where you can become a leader, but not necessarily always know how to negotiate the team, where the mutable signs are a little bit more team oriented because they're thinking more of the whole picture. And so having this Aries energy here and Cancer being as empathic and sensitive as it can be in terms of emotional intelligence, I'm trying to really use emotional intelligence and not sensitivity, but Cancer is very emotionally aware of how people feel or what's going on. And sometimes with Aries, you can't worry about whether or not it's going to hurt somebody's feelings to say, hey, you're not doing your job right and you need to do it better. But where the mutable signs are helpful is that we can figure out how to do that in a way that's more constructive versus just bossy. So if somebody's not doing well at their job and you just come in super dry and bossy, you're probably going to just make that person want to do an even worse job. It's punishing. We call that positive punishment in dog training. People do not respond well to positive punishment. Dogs don't respond well to positive punishment. They usually end up having, other problems that happen. Trauma happens from positive punishment. So what we have to do is we have to figure out how do we make this job reinforcing for people to do? How do we make people want to do what they're hired to do? And we have to create positive working environments, right? So we have to have that Aries assertiveness of like, here I am telling you what to do. That Cancer emotional intelligence of, I know how this person processes things, so I'm going to come in and be emotionally aware and observant. But we also can't be passive aggressive, and we can't be pushovers, right? We have to find a way to make it all work for everybody, including ourselves, and not burning ourselves out. So there's a lot of those themes for the Cancer chart. How do I cultivate a team? How am I direct and assertive without hurting anybody's feelings? How am I not overly emotional about it while not also being overly dry about it? How do I kind of find that sweet spot? And so if you're new to leadership, or you're new to a position at your job this month, those are some of the themes that you might be kind of coming across. And it's important that you open yourself up to getting feedback from other people. My husband, he's been in leadership for a while, but he kind of entered management after I had left management. So I had done management in a lot of jobs, and then I started working for myself. And when I started working for myself, he started entering more management roles at his jobs. And so I supported him a lot in that. Like, I gave him a lot of tips on how to be a good manager. I gave him tips on how to talk to his staff, and it helped. It totally helped him. And I wasn't the only person that was giving him feedback or advice, but I also had that when I was a manager. I had a lot of people that gave me advice and trained me. And that's partially why I think I learned a lot of those skills, was from the people that helped me. And so that's also a good thing for you to remember, Cancer, is that you're not alone in leadership. You're not alone in management. And, you don't have to take everything your staff does personally, and learning how to create boundaries and have kind of more detachment from things is good for you, because it can be easy for you to put your heart into everything being a Cancer, or wanting to mother people. That's one of the big mistakes that Cancer dominant people make. You're the sign that rules nurturing. You're the sign that rules mother. And, you don't need to mother your staff. You don't need to mother your team. You need to show up like a coach, like you're the baseball coach or the soccer coach. And while some of those nurturing maternal qualities can be really useful at certain times when it's necessary, nobody likes parental, people tend to put bosses in parental roles anyways. I think it's just what happens, but you have to be careful not to blur those lines, because then the boundaries with your staff get really bad. So obviously, I'm sure some Cancers listening to this are like, but I'm self-employed. I don't have a job like this. And the same can go for your clients. I left working with employees and managing a staff to work for myself. And while, even though my clients are technically my bosses, I'm the boss of my business, and I have to set the precedent for my clients. I set the boundaries and the rules with my clients, right? And it's a different type of relationship. And so those leadership qualities also can go into self-employment, and how you manage the people that you work for, and the way that you manage your communication and your dynamics with them. So that work life stuff is big theme for Cancer in the month of March, with all of this Aries energy that we have starting it out. And then the last half of March, we enter Aries season on March 20th. So the spring equinox happens. And then we have Mercury also entering Aries. So again, like, you might be in this position of really needing to build confidence around communicating the leadership things or the skill sets that you need to communicate. So working on that confident, like, I am the boss, I am the leader, the Emperor energy, your own authority within the work that you're doing, is a big theme for the Cancer chart. And you might already be that way. And if so, you're just working more into that, more self-love, self-acceptance, more confidence, all that kind of stuff. So we talked a lot about that. Some of the other things that are going on. Let's talk about Gemini. Mars in Gemini. So Mars has been in Gemini since August, and it's finally leaving Gemini at the end of March, and it's entering your sign of Cancer. And so once, that those early degrees of Cancer that Mars is going to be at the end of March, it starts on the 25th. You're going to get a boost of energy when it comes to how you want to assert yourself in the world and in your life. And it's going to be in the house that Aries traditionally rules. So more of this kind of Aries theme. And how do I assert myself? How do I express myself? What is my relationship to self? And, this is a time where you might feel a lot of ambition and energy to go after the things that you feel like you deserve and what you want in your life. So really positive there. Saturn's entering Pisces this month, where it's going to be until 2025. That's happening earlier in the year, or I'm sorry, in the month, on March 7th. And Saturn in Pisces is a really powerful energy for you being Cancer, because Pisces makes a trine to Cancer. This is elevating our connection to our imagination, our spiritual life, our creativity. For people in recovery, it also kind of ignites depression. So it's really common for people when we're going through this transit to experience really intense depression. So that's something that, if you've struggled with that in the past, you're going to want to get your community or your therapy or whatever modalities you have to cope with your depression and work on, your depression, whether that's meds, and going to a doctor, whether it's therapy or whatever you do, getting those things kind of ready to be actively applied in your life is positive. Where this is hitting in the horoscope for Cancer. So you've had Saturn passing through an area of the Cancer chart that has to do with death, rebirth, shared resources like loans, investments, banks, inheritance, all that kind of stuff has been a theme for the last 2.5 years. Sex has been a theme for the last 2.5 years. And Saturn's not an easy planet. So there's usually hardships that we're working through wherever it is. And so now Saturn's leaving that area and it's entering the area that has to do with our belief systems and spiritual pursuits and, these higher ideals. And so again, like you're going to be kind of over the next 2.5 years, maybe reflecting on certain beliefs that you've had over the years and how those are evolving and changing. You might really desperately need more of a spiritual practice or belief structure that supports more of an area of life that you're moving into that, maybe you weren't as open to before. I mean, I think it's common for like a lot of these cycles to happen where, let's say, like we were super anti-religion, or let's say we were really pro-religion, and then something happens to shift that idea in our minds, and then there's a new paradigm that comes in. And that's probably going to happen for a lot of Cancer dominant people over the next, especially Cancer rising, for the next 2.5 years. You might really be kind of shifting your thought process with that. Saturn in this area of the chart also indicates educational pursuits or teaching pursuits. Saturn in this area is a great teacher energy and a great finding a teacher, being a teacher and finding a teacher. We have to be careful though with who we call in, because it's also an energy where we could call in the wrong teacher. So we have to be mindful. We have to have a good code of ethics in how we pass knowledge down, and also who we let into our psyche in that way. So, discernment with Saturn and Pisces is going to be hard, but it's important that we try to have that. Pluto is going to be entering Aquarius at the end of March on the 23rd, 24th-ish. And we're going to have Pluto in Aquarius starting fully in 2024, but it's starting to go back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn, and starting a 20-year cycle in the sign of Aquarius. And that's actually going to be in that same area that Saturn's been in for you the last 2.5 years. So the area that rules sex, death, rebirth, inheritance. And it's not an easy energy wherever Pluto's transiting. So you might be in a position where you're reflecting on those themes over the next 20 years and experiencing a lot of change. Outer planets take so long that it's hard to talk about them in the context of horoscopes. You're not really supposed to. Horoscopes, we usually just focus on the personal planets, but when we have these big shifts of the outer planets or social planets moving into new signs, it's relevant because it's moving into an area for a locked period of time that is going to be really extensive. So it's good to kind of know, but really you want to look at your personal birth chart, because horoscopes are so general. Even though they're accurate, they're not as accurate as a personal reading on your own birth chart. Because all of our charts are different, right? So mid-month, Venus is going to enter Taurus, And Juno, the asteroid that represents marriage, is also going to be in Taurus. So that happens around the 17th. And so the area of the chart where that's hitting for the Cancer horoscope has to do with our social circle. So the last half of March is a really social time for you. It's really great networking. So again, if your job stuff is kind of taken off and networking is a part of your job, meeting new people and, you know, experiencing food and culture and doing fun, you know, kind of the outdoorsy things, that kind of stuff is all really supported for you. Making new friends is really supported for you at the end of March. And that is your horoscope. My dogs are barking. Good luck.